everyone and welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to be talking about some of the books that I'm currently reading and I don't know, some books that I have read recently and what I'm going to be reading next. I just kind of wanted to do a currently reading video because my recent reads aren't like that much up to date and I am totally free this week. Like, I have finished uni, I have finished work, so I have a lot of free time coming up and I'm just taking this week to just read and be lazy and just enjoy my life. But as a result of that, I just want to make a video talking about some of the books that I've been enjoying recently, because I've been on a good run with the books that I have been reading. And I just want to kind of talk about something that I've also noticed in my reading. So I'm currently reading a number of books at the moment. I actually started reading My Year of Rest and Relaxation by Ottessa Moshfegh last year, yesterday or the day before. I basically managed to finish it within like 36 hours or something like that. I embarked on a lot of rest and relaxation in order to just read that. Not just to read that, because it was actually pretty easy to turn through the pages, but I'm also currently reading this book, which is Sensuous Knowledge, A Black Feminist Approach for Everyone by Mina Salami. I am reading Tiny Habits, and I am also listening to Be Taught If Fortunate by Becky Chambers. So I thought I would speak about My Year of Rest and Relaxation very briefly here. I actually want to do a review video on it because after reading that book, I'm just more astounded by the hype the book has gotten. Like, I get it, not the hype, I don't get the hype. I get the book, but I don't get the hype. I will say, I have read Eileen by Ottessa Moshfegh before because it was nominated on the shortlist for the Man Booker Prize. I want to say 2018 maybe, or 2017. I did speak about it in one of my first videos that I actually uploaded on here. And she's very good at writing unlikable characters. But yeah, My Year of Rest and Relaxation wasn't what I was expecting from obviously what the title was and from the reviews that it was getting. People were giving it like 5 stars and I'm like, 5 stars where? Like, it's so random to me. Like, I enjoyed it, but it's not 5-star worthy. But like I said, I am going to do a review video on that. But if you don't know what My Year of Rest and Relaxation is about, it's basically about a girl who basically decides she is going to embark on a year of rest and relaxation. And from the back, you don't really know how she does that, but a lot of this is done through consuming pharmaceutical drugs that she is prescribed by a doctor. And different things happen along the way, really, but you know, the whole incident, everything takes place basically in her apartment. And you know, it's a very privileged, spoiled girl who very much acknowledges this. But yeah, it's quite quirky. I don't know, not quirky, it's quite funny and sarcastic and witty in places. I still don't think it's worthy of 5 stars. But I do have to say, like, I enjoyed reading and hearing about her horrible thoughts. I'm not gonna lie, some of her thoughts I was a bit like, I kind of think like that. Am I a really unlikable person? But then I reminded myself that I'm just very much not like her. But yeah, interesting book, and I will talk about it more in like one of my recent reads, and then I will like do a review on it. So I've also been reading Sensuous Knowledge. I was sent this by Zed Books. I'm part of this email list. It's called Black British Bloggers, which enables Black British bloggers to get opportunities like with the media in terms of blogging, in terms of Instagram, in terms of YouTube. And Zed Books had sort of placed an ad in there asking people if they wanted to review this book, and I really wanted it, but I hadn't read the other book that they'd sent me, so I didn't want to request it. But then I came home one day, like I remember the day so clearly. I came home, it was the day that basically my company had announced we were all working from home. So I'd gone to the office and then I had come home and there was this package underneath my door and I was like, what is that? Because I knew I hadn't ordered anything, and it was this, so that was really good. This is an essay collection where Mina basically explores, I guess, different things that she's interested in. So these essays are split into really nice titles, which I'm flicking and swiping through. I think I've passed the contents page now. Yeah, so the essay titles are split into titles of knowledge, of liberation, of decolonization, of womanhood, of sisterhood, of power, of beauty. And through that she explores loads of different things. So I'm going to read the inside here so you can kind of get an actual good feel of what the book is about. It says, in Sensuous Knowledge, Mina Salami draws on Afrocentric, feminist-first and artistic traditions to help us rediscover inclusive and invigorating ways of experiencing the world afresh. Combining the playfulness of a storyteller with the insight of a social critic, the book pries apart the systems of power and privilege that have dominated ways of thinking for centuries, and which have led to so much division, prejudice and damage. and it puts forward a new sensuous approach to knowledge, one grounded in a host of global perspectives, from black feminism to personal narrative, pop culture to high art, Western philosophy to African mythology, together comprising a vision of hope for a fragmented world riven by crisis. And yeah, it goes on to say a bit more. But this book is stunning. Like, I really like Mina's writing. I think it's super accessible for me. It is quite academic in some places, but it's still very accessible for the normal reader who's not used to reading like academic text. She does bring in some academic research and things like that, but she marries that with a lot of like pop culture references. She talks a lot about Lauryn Hill in here. She talks about Audre Lorde, bell hooks, some other just really prominent black feminist women, and yeah, it's a really insightful book. I'm learning a lot of things from here. It is also tied in with some of her own personal stories, so it's nice. Each essay collection sort of has this academic base, but then there's also her sort of personal thoughts on it, and yeah, it's just a really nice, interesting read. You'll see I have some sticky notes here, and the reason why I have these sticky notes is because in some of the ways that she introduces arguments or introduces different academic research, I have just highlighted this for my dissertation for ways to sort of structure arguments, because I found it has been really useful. I'm reading it, I'm like, oh, that's a good way of being like, this is the body of research out there, but this is what I think, so that's what these bits are. So the other book that I spoke about was Tiny Habits. I am considering DNFing this book. I've been reading it for a while and I'm just not really into it, but then I'll read a bit of it and I'm like, I actually do really like this, but I think my main problem with the book is, I'm like, I like it, a lot of this makes sense, but I'm not going to do any of the things he's suggesting, so I'm just kind of like, why am I wasting my time? So Tiny Habits is obviously a book that talks about self-improvement. It talks about how these little tiny habits, you should be focusing on building tiny habits rather than these huge goals. For example, in the bit that I've just finished reading, he's talking about, say you wanted to do 20 push-ups in a day, the motivation like you need for that, you probably don't have that motivation you need for that, but what if you changed it to something like doing 2 push-ups a day, and what if you did it so it was 2 wall push-ups? Because the motivation and the, I can't remember what the other thing is, but I don't know, the need, whatever, the ability, sorry, to do that is very low. You can probably easily do 2 wall push-ups, and it's obviously by building on those tiny habits, eventually you will get to doing those 20 push-ups. I really get it. A lot of the science and the theory behind it is very practical, and actually it makes a lot of sense. I just know I ain't gonna do none of it, so I'm a bit like, why am I reading a book? Also, I think that it's very largely, like, I just feel like it feels so Americanized. Like, I'm just like, it's all very like, you can do it, and I'm just like, relax. And also, it has a ton of diagrams. The diagrams are actually so easy to understand. I think I just have some sort of aversion to diagrams that instantly, the minute I see it, I'm like, this is gonna be so hard. And actually, when I look at it, I'm like, this diagram is really simple. But there are tons of them, and I'm just like, if you're trying to just like display something to us, please just like, I don't know, write it down. This is a book. If you have so many diagrams, I feel like it's just really off-putting and it makes everything look more complicated than it actually is. And a lot of the diagrams could just be explained, because he does explain them and then shows us a diagram. So I'm just like, one or the other. The other book I'm currently reading is To Be Taught If Fortunate by Becky Chambers. I actually want to start reading her trilogy, but I thought this would be a nice introduction to her writing. I had an Amazon Audible credit and I think it was just like running out or something, so I was just like, I need to pick something. So I picked this, and this is her novella. I think she's written this after the trilogy, and it's basically about 4 sort of space explorers. They are exploring 4 different planets, so the book is split into 4 different chapters, and it's about each of the different planets that they visit, and it's told in the form of a long letter. So our main character, Ariadne, I think her name is writing back to Earth about their time, and I guess it's just more interesting in the sense that where the different planets that they go to, the mission that they've been sent on, they can check in with Earth and find that Earth has been completely wiped out, or it's been taken over by a dictatorship, or the company that sent them out there doesn't exist anymore. So there are a lot of changes. I do feel like the novella is quite slow. Like, it's very much not about the exploration and the things that they find on the planet. It's very much about the group's social dynamics and how, I don't know, sometimes when they step onto a different planet, how different it is from the previous planet. But it's not really about the different planets. There are some bits now that I've deep dived into it, like, well, I'm further in the book, and you know, they are talking about sort of life on that planet, but that's not what this book is about. I think it's very much about how these 4 survived and what sort of went on. And I can't tell this from reading the book, but I have seen when I've been on the Goodreads page for the book that a lot of the characters are diverse. I think one of the characters is trans, or maybe another character is non-binary, another character is pansexual, and I will say that, like, I think they have open relationships. It's never explicitly said that this is an open relationship, but she talks about how she might lie down with one of the girls, and it's just really nice. She was like, I lay down like face to face, no touching, and then like I touched her face, and they're quite intimate moments she describes. So you get the feeling that there is a sort of sexual, intense, romantic relationship between her, but then she talks about that sort of same thing with another guy. And there's never any hint of jealousy, and there's never any labels attached to it, so you do just get a sense that everyone is kind of with each other, but they're okay with it all. So it's very interesting, but again, the book isn't very much focused on their social, not on their social, on their romantic relationships. So it's a bit hard to really gather what this book is about. I'm enjoying it. When I first started listening to it, I was a bit like, I don't really like this. And I probably do want to pick this up as in its physical form just to read it. But yeah, the more I get into it, I'm actually enjoying it. So those are books I'm currently reading at the moment, and I thought I would quickly talk about some books that I have recently finished, because yeah, they have just been really good books as well. That's what I mean by I'm enjoying my reading. So the first one I want to talk about is Fire Sermon. I actually first read this in 2018, and then I reread it again about a week and a half ago, maybe, probably a bit longer than that. I just had an inkling to pick it up. I don't really know why. I remember saying at the time when I reviewed it that I'd pick it up again just to like really get my final thoughts in it. So when I first originally read it, I gave it 3 out of 5 stars, and now I gave it 4. It just really went up in my estimation. I think the way Jamie Quatro wrote about the characters and wrote about relationships was really interesting. I was just like, I quite like this. So this book is about Maggie. Maggie is entirely devoted to her husband Thomas, their 2 beautiful children, and to God. Until what begins as an innocent letter writing with married poet James starts to become something far more erotically charged. Their meeting of minds threatens to become a meeting of bodies. Yeah, and it basically follows this woman as she embarks on like her affair with this poet. And the way this book is structured is quite interesting. I didn't actually remember this until I read it, and you don't really realise it until you're getting to the end, but it's split into 3 parts, and it's split into sort of the middle, so when I guess the affair really starts to build up. I want to say the beginning, the beginning when they first just sort of started writing to each other, and then it split into like after, so when the affair is no longer like prominent, and what happens like when their children grow up and stuff like that. So, and there is also a lot of talk of like, you know, her children growing up, the issues that maybe some of her children have, and it's a very varied bag I guess in terms of books. So it does take a look at, you know, the female desire and the affair, but it also very much takes a look at family life as well. So it's very interesting. I really enjoyed it, and I just really can't really pinpoint why either, but I just know that I really liked her writing, and I will probably talk a little bit more about her writing when I do my recent reads review. So the next book I'm going to speak about is this, which is Octavia E. Butler's Seed to Harvest. So this contains Wild Seed, Mind of My Mind, Clay's Ark, and Pattern Master. I read Wild Seed and Mind of My Mind last year, and then this year I finished off and read Clay's Ark and Pattern Master, and I so much enjoyed this. Like, I enjoyed this so much. that's English. This book is put together so that the timeline for this is chronological. All these books are set in the same world. However, I think Octavia E. Butler actually first released Pattern Master, which is the last one chronologically, and then released the other ones like as and when she was writing. And I just can't imagine reading this any other way. It gave me such a good sort of I'm gonna say it built up the scenes that I was able to really enjoy Pattern Master and really value it. I think had I read Pattern Master on its own, I would have just been like, oh, this is another sci-fi book that I can't stand. But it really built up the world, it built up the foundations. I understood the different races in Pattern Master, that because whilst I feel like Pattern Master is a story essentially about 2 brothers and sibling rivalry, that is the basis of the book. There is so many other things to it, but the basic story is brothers trying to fight for their inheritance, basically. But because I had the understanding of the world from Mind of My Mind, Wild Seed, Clay's Ark, I just appreciated it so much more. And it was just kind of nice to see all the races in one. So Wild Seed and Mind of My Mind is basically the setup of this race. In Wild Seed, it's like the 2 founders, and Mind of My Mind, it's when they sort of start to build the race and build the family. Clay's Ark is the sort of alternative race in this world, and then Pattern Master, you're sort of seeing how this society has developed, and all the different sort of hierarchies in this society that have come about as of Mind of My Mind and Clay's Ark. Mind of My Mind is probably my favourite from this, like, yeah, hands down it's my favourite. I really enjoyed Clay's Ark, and I'm so surprised at that, because Clay's Ark is basically like a Contagion kind of book. Clay's Ark is basically, these wild people carjack a family, so it's 2 daughters and their dad. They carjack this family, and basically they have some disease and they scratch them, and then once you scratch them, basically I think you have a hankering for like human flesh or something, like you just kind of want to devour them, and they become like these Sphinx-like characters, at least the children do, and their world is kind of different. So yeah, basically they're like crawling around in the middle of the night attacking people. Again, I was talking more about this in one of my recent reviews, but honestly I have been able to read 2 really good books, and I'm like so happy. And those good books seem to be continuing, so I'm really happy. So I guess in terms of what's next for my reading, I'm going to try and reduce my TBR, sort of clean out my TBR. My issue with I say my TBR, it is my TBR, but it's just like a whole bunch of my unread books. My issue with all of my unread books is a lot of them were just acquired because like I was being greedy or I've been sent them and things like that. They aren't actually books that I'm like really excited to read. So I kind of have been allowing myself to buy books that are on my list that I'm really excited to read. So that's why I read My Year of Rest and Relaxation, because I was just like, I want to read this book, like, so I'm going to read it, because otherwise I feel like I'm going to get really sluggish in my reading, and I don't want that to happen. I want to be excited about the books that I'm reading. So yeah, I'm trying to basically formulate some sort of plan where I'm sort of reading the books that are unread, but I'm also taking the time to read books that I really want to read and really passionate about and want to get to. One of the next books that I am going to start reading is How Crowds Can Change Your Life by Alain de Botton. I actually picked this up in 2018, so like I should read it, but I'm going to read it because I really like Alain de Botton's the School of Life videos that they produce, but also I think this will tick my sort of self-helpy book one. Obviously I'm going to finish reading Tiny Habits first because that's also ticking that box. But yeah, I have a couple of other books that I sort of have to get to, but I know one of the books I'm going to get to very soon is Freshwater. I don't know how to pronounce the author's name, so I'll just put it across the screen. But yeah, I'm really excited to get to reading that. But yeah, so there's a ton of books in my Amazon basket that I'm so excited for that I just need to get to. So yeah, so that is it for this video. Let me know if you're interested in any of the books that I have mentioned. I am happy to have a little chat about them. And let me know about any books you're excited to get to reading. I have so many unbelievable, but I now actually have the chance and the time to get to them, so I'm beyond excited. But yeah, that's all from me today. I'll catch you in another video. Bye!